All right, these playoffs are feisty. They're physical. The arenas are packed and loud and intense. It has been highly engaging basketball. Ric Bucher's joining us. I think my take is there are messages sent all the time. Shedeur Sanders dropping is a message. J.J. Redick not going to the bench is a message to the front office. Okay, hot shot. That looks like Rob Lowe, Rob Pelinka. Congratulations on your new extension and advancement in the organization.
Yeah.
Get me bigs.
Sure.
He's basically saying without saying, I trust 5 guys.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's certainly what he did in the last game. I do think that it was reactionary and impulsive as opposed to really planned. And I can't put it all on Rob Pelinka because this is where I believe that JJ showed his youth and inexperience as a coach, because he has been mixing and matching with his bench all season long. And at some point you have to decide, I'm going to set what my rotation is and what the roles are for my role players, because they need that comfort level. Steve Kerr was mixing and matching for a good part of the season, but he got to February, March, and he said, okay, I need to make some decisions. Jonathan Kuminga, you're going to the bench. Like, this is going to be a rotation. We're going to play primarily small. Trace Jackson Davis, sorry. Kevon Looney, sorry. You're like, this is what we're going to go with. JJ never made that move. And so he got to a point where Dalton Knecht, can you throw him out there? And I have no idea what I'm going to get. That was the case with all of those players. So does the roster need to change for Luka? Absolutely. But we knew that going in.
Right.
When they made the trade, we said, oh, they've taken a step back. And then they ended up being better than we thought. And everybody's like, oh, no, they're title contenders. No, this isn't the right roster for Luka Doncic. And the biggest missing piece, which that you pointed out, they've tried to do, was to get another big. He needs a rim runner,
Yes.
lob protector. I looked at the numbers from last year's Minnesota-Dallas series because I was wondering, like, okay, Luka's getting his numbers, but he's got, last I checked, he had like 18 assists and 14 turnovers in this series.
Oh, he's not getting assists in the series.
In last year's series, he had like 40-some assists and 18 turnovers.
But he's not getting the lob points.
Exactly. Derek Lively, Daniel Gafford last year, he had, first of all, he had a rim defender. He had a good shot blocker behind him to protect him defensively. But offensively, those guys were a combined like plus 40. And Jackson Hayes is close to a minus 20. That is the biggest difference between those two. And you weren't going to fix that in the short term. They tried at the trade deadline. Then they realized we can't give up Dalton Knecht and a #1 pick to get Mark Williams. That's too much of a risky move, so they pulled it back. But ultimately, that's where you have to go.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm a little disappointed. You've been hanging out with the wrong people. Your producer tried to convince you that the Timberwolves were more of a threat than you were saying. I would have helped you out on that.
I didn't know Julius Randle, which he'd never done in his career, starts hitting 43% of his three-pointers. He'd always been a massive playoff disappointment.
Yep.
He's played great.
He has. And the thing is when he got to Minnesota, he was not very good, and they were not very good. And I think everybody kind of turned the page on the Timberwolves. But over the last part of the season, Randle was playing much better, and they'd learned to play through him. So you just have to be careful about who you're hanging out with and where you're getting some of your NBA expertise. Nick Wright can be a dangerous be a dangerous source.
You know, we were saying this 3 years ago. Ja Morant would have been taken over Ant by a lot of people in the NBA.
Yep.
Nobody now would take Ja over Ant. I thought Ant's defensive effort is really what a lot of young players come into this league and they've never had to play defense. Mm-hmm. And I'm watching Ant. His fourth quarter stuff, he's the best player on the floor.
Yep.
Like, and that to me, he's been very good for years. I feel like this series has kind of been a definer. Like,
no question about it. No question about it. I thought that for Minnesota to win and for him to be able to outplay Luka and LeBron in crunch time, that he was going to have to elevate his game. He was going to have to go to the next level, not from a physical standpoint, but from a mental standpoint. And one of the reasons that I maintained a certain belief that he could do that is talking to Mike Conley over the last couple of years. And Mike was like, he wants to learn. He wants to be better. He sits next to me and is asking me questions all the time. And I thought, okay, at some point he's going to get over the immaturity.
Yeah.
And we're going to see that come to fruition. And that's exactly what you're seeing in this series.
Okay, so I picked Houston in 7 without Kuminga being an asset. Then Butler gets hurt. I'm like, all right, grab the shovels. It's over.
Yes.
Were you shocked, not by Steph's performance, but, I mean, offensively, Houston, again, doesn't quite know what the heck they are.
I was shocked by Alperen Sengun. I'll say that. He was so mentally wrecked in that last game.
Why?
That I don't know, because it wasn't like Draymond was doing anything extraordinary. He was getting to all his spots, but for whatever reason he missed some shots early.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was the magnitude of the game. This is what happens when you have young teams
go on the road,
unproven star. And this is the value of when you have a young team and you get to the playoffs, because guys can be regular season studs, but the playoffs are just a different animal when they're able to dial into what you like to do and they make it difficult.
I mean, if you turn the sound down and watch the crowds,
yes,
people are up.
Yes.
I mean, it's an intimidating. Houston looked almost intimidated at times.
Yep. And the funny thing is during the regular season, they had a pivotal game at the end of the regular season, went into the Chase Center, and they won that game. Totally different performance. But there's something about, you know what, this game could be the decider in the series. This possession could be the decider of this game that just creates a whole different atmosphere for young players. And until you see them in those moments and you see them perform, you don't really know, are they a cut above?
That's right.
Can you build your team around them?
Yeah.
In terms of being a postseason threat?
Well, I mean, we've said this. The disadvantage to being young in the NBA playoffs is the referees swallow the whistle, and sometimes these older players are just bigger and stronger, and they've been in NBA weight rooms for a decade, NBA nutrition, and it's just like, it's like Nas Reed, Julius Randle. Some of these guys are men.
Yep.
And you can see the difference physically on a Houston and like a Minnesota or a Los Angeles Laker team. Okay, so I still contend the Clippers are the better team. Jokic is the best player. The hardest part about this series is finding it on TV consistently. I'm gonna go. I still think the Clippers have more depth.
Yeah.
I mean, you go to the box score of this, and it's like basically you look. How'd Jamal do and how'd Jokic do?
Yep.
I just feel I get more, a little bit like Minnesota. I've got more potential scores here for the Clippers.
Yeah. No. I'm with you. They have the depth and the versatility and the size and the go-to scorers. The Clippers have the better team. It's just a matter of their execution at the end of games. Because, and again, it kind of comes down to the leadership. If you watch Jokic throughout this, he's talking, he's barking, he's trying to get guys in place. He's making demands of both David Adelman, the interim coach, and the players. Who's doing that for the Clippers?
I know.
When things go a little bit sideways.
Yes.
Everybody's trying to get their own thing. And Kawhi, one-on-one, offensively and defensively, is everything you could want. But sometimes you need that guy to say, hey, this is what I need from you and you and you. And that's just not how Kawhi operates. And so that's the missing piece. When things get a little shaky, you need somebody to pull everybody together and say, this is the game plan. And Ty Lue is a great coach, but I've always gotten the sense that at the end of games, he kind of hands over the keys to the car to his best player. He hands them over to Kawhi or to James and says, okay, this is your time, you get it done. And if you have the right guys with the right leadership, that happens. But that's the one missing element for the Clippers, is just that vocal leadership when things go a little sideways. You look at them on paper, they are the better team than the Nuggets.
Finally, I think the Knicks are better than the Pistons. I said earlier, I like physical play. I like players deciding it, not the refs. The only downside to allowing such physical play, you occasionally get fights. There's still that malice in the palace thing the league's paralyzed by. Shouldn't be, but is. The second problem is when you let a game be officiated physically, that is fine. It doesn't change outcomes. But with a minute left, if you don't call that stuff, it changes outcomes. And it's too close to the end of the game that fans remember it. And so I'm watching them let these guys arm wrestle for 2.5 hours. And then those officials are like, well, we wouldn't have called that earlier. And it's like, guys, that's a game changer.
Yeah.
What do you do with that?
Yeah, you have to recognize the situation. If guys are in the post, and this is, you have a lot of referees who are inexperienced at calling this game like this and being able to differentiate. It's not the level of physicality, it's where the physicality is happening. Like, you know, people were to, when Ant is pushing LeBron James in the chest and they're kind of wrestling and doing all that. You're not calling that because it's not impacting the ball actually going in the basket. That's just almost a mental wrestle, right? Who's trying to get into whose head? And we enjoy that. We enjoy that back and forth. By the way, shout out to Adam Silver that we're allowing this physicality.
Yes.
Because it's made the games more competitive and it's actually made teams play basketball. You have to play team basketball in order to get a shot.
No question.
You can't just put it in one guy's hands and he goes to the cup and he's either scoring or he's going to the free throw line. We see far less of that. But here's the distinction in that particular instance with the Pistons and the Knicks. And that's that in the post, I'm going to allow physicality. I'm shoulder to shoulder. I have to allow that bump. If it's a guy and it's a jump shooter, if you're just touching my elbow, if you're just hitting my shoulder a little bit, you're impacting my ability to make that shot. I have to blow the whistle on that call. And it's recognizing the difference between those two. And since we've been blowing the whistle for everything, now we can't see the distinction. Referees can't see the distinction between, oh, inside, I got to let a little more go. On the outside, I'm all eyes that if there's contact, I've got to blow the whistle. And then the other part is from where the referee was standing, the contact was on the other side. And so you don't know how much of that was contact affected the shot and how much was Tim Hardaway Jr. trying to sell it. So I got to give him some grace there. But the bigger reason for what we're seeing, maybe the uncertainty, is because we haven't called, the NBA has not called the game this way for the longest time. So there's an adjustment period for the referees as well.
I tell you, it's hard to turn off. The physicality makes, when Ant and LeBron.
So good. Yep. They should bring back the I Love This Game campaign as well.
Yes.
Because you know what? I can say genuinely, I love this game.
Same. I mean, it's so good when LeBron and Ant are, and you're like, oh, this is old finesse. J-Mac likes rainbows and butterflies out there.
Yeah.
I'm out here. I like my Julius Randle. I like my Rudy Gobert, little forearm shimmer to the back of the head.
All of it. And here's the thing. The league has this great, you talked about like the fights and all that stuff. Look, we don't have guys like that in the league anymore. Guys were making hundreds of thousands of dollars. Yeah, you were gonna fight because
the pie was smaller.
The pie was smaller. Now there's way too much at stake. I'm gonna square off.
This thing's a moneymaker.
Yes, guys are not throwing haymakers now. Like, it's never getting to that. So meanwhile, we get to see guys go nose to nose and talk trash. And more than anything, we get to see that they care on the level that fans do.
That is really the key to this. You watch the NBA. LeBron's diving into Ant. You're like, LeBron's in year 22.
Yes.
He's worth $800 million or more, and he's diving on the floor for a loose ball.
100%.
That's what the fans want.
Exactly.
And by the way, I love it.
Yep.
They care as much as we do.
That's what we want to see.
Yes.
We want to know that they care as much as we do. And I believe they always have.
Yes.
But when the whistle is so quick, if you touch a guy, what are you supposed to do? Like, I want to stay in the game.
Right.
I can't touch him. Well, then how am I supposed to play hard if I can't touch him?
I hope, J-Mac, you paid attention to this segment.
J-Mac is used to his pickup game where you know the kind of player J-Mac is.
Oh, I know.
J-Mac, pump fake. He gets his shot blocked, and he's like, oh, got foul. Got me on the wrist.
Is hand wrist? Because LeBron was asking if ball is wrist.
Wrist is not part of the ball.
Oh, it's not. Interesting.
Hand is part of the ball.
Okay.
That was
interesting.
Yeah.
What was that called? The hawk camera in the sky?
Yeah.
Referees don't even have access to that. They're like, oh, look, this camera found a foul. Lakers get jobbed.
That was,
Rick.
Yeah, that was a tough one.
That was devastating for the Lakers.
It was tough, but it was right.
Yes, it was.
It was.
J-Mac with the news.
Handcuffed him.